Hey kids, join the club. Get the all-new CCXCC t-shirt made with 100% mutant power. Be like these cool kids. Get it now on dinobeast.com and chrisandersoncomics.com. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Chris Claremont X-Men Comic Club. Joined as always by my good friend and co-host, John Coates. How you doing?
I am doing terrific.
Awesome.
Sir.
I hope everybody did their homework and are caught up on the issues, because we are going right into issue 114 of X-Men. We're kind of bridging a couple storylines here, which is kind of cool. You know, it's not the like 2-issue storyline and done. They've starting to sort of like weave together, you know?
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of issue 101, where it's like before post Phoenix shows up and before they get going on the Irish vacation a little bit.
Yeah.
Where it's like a lot seems to happen, but also action-wise, a lot doesn't happen, but it's still a great issue.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's this gradient between storylines that's happening too. It's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
When we last left our mischievous mutants, well, they were almost all dead.
That's right.
So the only two that we have left, sadly, is Beast and Phoenix, with Professor X, if you count him as amongst the team, which is a discussion that we've had. Is he part of the team or is he just the leader?
Yeah.
But yeah, everybody's gone. Man, what a shame.
Yeah. Terrible ending last issue. And here they all are in ghost form on the cover.
So crazy, because I feel like Wolverine especially could have been just a moneymaker for Marvel, but nope, they decided to kill him and that's it.
Bold move.
Great
strategy there. And this is October of 78.
Okay, I'm 1 year old.
Keeping track. Yeah.
All right.
And still only 35 cents. So if you paid more than that for your issue, readers, you might have got ripped off.
Desolation. Whoa.
Yeah.
Going right into it.
Great opening splash page here. Claremont and Byrne. Austin on inks. Simic still doing the letters. Glynis Wein on colors. Same team as last issue. I love when they put like the title sort of works in, you know, it's like all that Will Eisner spirit stuff and like yeah, great work in here. The Beast like just covered in ice, like his fur is frozen here in Antarctica. Looks amazing. A lot of this, like the ink work here, like the snow, like on top of Jean here. Mm-hmm. Boy, it reminds me a lot of Joe Kubert.
Yes, it really does, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yep. You build off of the people that came before you, you know?
Yep. And right away they're telling us, you know, this is sort of talking about the Beast. He should have died hours ago. In fact, he almost had, lying face down in the snow, sleeping his life away.
Yeah.
Woo.
Yeah, but he's got all that fur, you know? It keeps him warm.
And something just forced him to get up and to just pick Jean up and to just keep walking across the Antarctic wastes. And it reminds us here, Hank McCoy, currently he's an Avenger, and Jean is, of course, an X-Man.
Right.
So here we go. Are they going to get out of it? And as the Beast is moving around, all of a sudden, whoop, 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 whoop. We get some lights coming down. And he's like, oh, I must be dreaming, but no, it's real. It's a helicopter.
How thoughtful to put all the icicles around his sort of nose and anywhere that moisture would be coming out, you know?
Yeah.
Somebody has lived in a cold climate before.
Yeah. Well
Or at
thought
least
out.
seen, yeah, National
ice placement.
Geographics. Yeah.
Yeah.
People climbing Mount Everest.
And he's trying to get the attention of the helicopter, but of course it's night and there's a blizzard going and he's blue. So it's not going to work out. He's like,
Yeah.
I need some kind of flare. And so he's trying to wake Jean up so that she can create, the flare to get him rescued.
Yeah.
And
says wakey wakey.
Yeah, wakey wakey. And boom, she pops awake, and her first thought is for, of course, Scott. And her phoenix powers sort of explode. We get the flaming bird, and she starts blasting at the ground, saying the X-Men are trapped. They're buried alive. We've got to dig them out. And, of course, all this commotion gets them seen by the helicopter, by the U.S. Navy here. Great shot from like inside the cockpit here, kind of looking out at the flares going on. Yeah. And she's like, no, I've come through too much to just lose the X-Men now. And the Beast is, stopping her and telling her the volcano flooded the entire complex with lava. Your power got us out, but there's no way anyone else could have survived. The X-Men are dead. They're dead.
They're dead.
Page 3, our worst fears are confirmed.
My God.
Those suckers are gone.
I need a Slurpee now, or icy.
Yeah, right. Every time I see that ad, I'm like, I could go for an icy.
Yeah. But wait, what's this?
Oh, a nice little jungle mountain starts to crumble a little bit, and pow, gets punched out from the inside, and here come the X-Men. They're alive.
Dang.
They did it.
Great team shot at the end there with and I like how Cyclops' little head thing is torn. You can just see underneath it.
The hair.
Yeah, it's matted down.
Yeah, everybody's got these shredded costumes that look super cool.
Yeah, look at that. How the interesting thing where in the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, the 5th panel there, where the sun is sort of peeking over the mountains there, and you just get that like ray of light coming through. That's an interesting choice that they made.
Yeah, it is really interesting. You think that was a lot of like the inking? You think that was a
yeah? It
kind of
seems like, I don't know if it was in the pencils, yeah, but it's definitely designed to draw your eye down towards the final panel.
Yeah. And right here, everyone like is offering Aurora a hand to get out of there, like Nightcrawler, and it's like, hey, yeah, because what are friends for? And this struck me right here, this moment, reading this, as like, right here when this happens, it's like the romance between Storm and Colossus that had been building when Dave Cockrum was on the book. It's over.
Exactly what I was thinking.
Right? It's just like completely forgotten. It's just like, oh, hey, we're friends. I'll help you out of this hole.
Yep. Because if it was continuing, it would have been Colossus helping her instead of Banshee at that moment.
Yeah, it just felt like there would have been a little word bubble or like something.
Yeah.
From one of them.
It's abandoned now.
Yep.
Maybe it was just too much of these couple things going on. Maybe he just decided it was time to back off on that and let her be her independent, strong person, and he is on his own journey.
Yeah, I mean, that would this would be one of those great little questions to ask Claremont, like, why was that sort of a growing romance abandoned? Was there a point where it felt like if you have two female characters on the team and they both end up in romances, does that, I don't know, do something that you didn't want to happen in the story? Do you want more possibilities just always open? Or did it come from like editorial? Did somebody else say like, let's abandon this?
Yeah.
I really want to know.
I do too. Yeah, because it's a big thing that was sort of building.
Yeah. And so here we go. Everybody's getting out. Great looks of shock on their face as everybody turns around and looks. And they're like, whoa, is this Antarctica still?
Yeah.
And Cyclops is like, oh yeah, it's Antarctica. All right, people. A part I never thought I'd see again. Welcome, X-Men, to the Savage Land.
So
yeah.
I only know a little bit about Savage Land. So obviously it is isolated in Antarctica. It's this tropical little spot. Does it also have some sort of like magical bubble over it where it is like psychically protected from the rest of the world, or something like that to protect it?
It has it's like got its own like atmosphere kind of over top of it that like keeps it protected from the cold. But it's not like a dome or anything, so like people can't just like fly in with a helicopter if they wanted to. They could, yeah. It's not like sealed off like the Inhumans, city that they live in or something like that.
My question is, though, why is Jean not able to sense that they're here, that they're alive? That's why I was wondering if there was some sort of like psychic shielding or something that really protected this land from the rest of the world.
Yeah, that is a great question. We'll see if it comes up. It does, they don't mention anything in this issue, but we'll see if that gets addressed.
Okay. All right.
Because that's a good observation, Chris. There has to be something else going on in the Savage Land to kind of disrupt that kind of sort of psychic connections and stuff.
Yeah. I love this tree too. I love the way that he handles these branches.
Yeah. Great shot. Looking down into the Savage Land makes it look nice. It's sort of big and epic and everything.
Yeah, and atmospheric perspective is when things that go into the distance sort of start to fade, or get less detailed. Is the best way that I can put it right now, and that's why that's why the mountains and everything are sort of handled very minimally with the line work and stuff like that. Like you could go in and draw all these craggy things, but it's much better if you lay off of detail and push it back.
Yeah. And so the X-Men are kind of recovering, getting a breather here after, burrowing out of this mountain. And Banshee, he can tell that Storm's sort of shaken up because of her claustrophobia.
Yep.
He's like, hey, there's no
well, though. Yeah. She handled it fairly well, though, compared to other times. She's getting a handle on it.
Yeah, this whole from like last issue to this issue, like she's been through the ringer, being trapped in that little chair by the nanny, and then having to go through this like cave, just to make it to safety. But she's like getting way better at controlling that stuff.
Yeah.
And so, hey, there's open sky. So Banshee's like, let's go for a fly. Let's get out here, fly a little bit. It'll make us feel better. And they're like, yeah, it's great. And then he looks down here, and the other X-Men are kind of trying to yell at him. But he's got to use his sonic scream to fly, so he can't really hear what they're saying.
Right.
and boom, he gets hit from behind by a giant pterosaur.
Holy mother, oh God.
Oh God.
That's a great drawing of when it grabs him, and it's an even better drawing on the next page where she's flying and he's in the grip, and the black under the wing like that. It feels like a throwback to the Masters, like Al Williamson or Frazetta would have really blacked out the underside of it, because it is, the underside of the wing would be black because the sun would be above it, right? And that balance of black and the positive and negative space for the composition is how the Masters handled it back in the day, and you still would handle it that way if you're any good. A lot of artists, I think, would just draw the underside. I probably would have drawn the underside of the wing and added some veins and things like that, but this is just beautiful.
Yeah, and I'm a sucker for the Savage Land. I love me some dinosaurs, and
do you like dinosaurs?
Oh, well, weird.
Dinobeast.com.
Well, yeah, guess that's why I make dinosaur comics. And so, you get the X-Men in the Savage Land, dinosaurs. Phew, awesome. Great setting. And so, Cyclops is freaking out, like, because this thing grabbed Banshee, and he's so tiny in its like claws there.
Yeah. I've just noticed again that they're bringing back the almost kind of cat eye of Storm, not with the eyes going up on the sides, but the vertical pupils. Yeah.
It always stands out. It's almost kind of weird, when the pupils get like that, and they're like very skinny cat eye.
It comes and goes. I wonder if it's like an indicator of something, or if it's because sometimes they draw with just regular pupils. I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's just in the moment.
Yeah.
I think they'll do like with no pupils, and just make it white.
Yeah, that's when her powers
like a signaling that she's like using her powers, kind of a thing. Yeah. So everyone's like, well, how do we save him? There's no way we can do it. And Wolverine, with his quick thinking there, he's like, Colossus, mix me up a fastball special.
There we go.
Boom. Always ready for the fastball special. And he just chucks him through the air, and Wolverine's like, here comes the man with the adamantium claws. Nice little reminder to us that he's got metal claws made of this weird substance.
Yep. They draw him so hairy. It's so funny in this issue.
Yeah. Byrne really does a good job of making him hairy.
Yeah.
And he just flies through the air here and just knifes this thing right in the neck.
Does. I mean, it's just doing what its nature tells it to do. Jeez. But I suppose Wolverine's doing what his nature tells him to do.
Yep.
In fact, he says,
monsters. Look at this. It's been too long since he's been able to cut loose.
Yeah.
Oh, he's just taking it out.
It's like a little blender.
And yeah, so he's just sitting on there, just cutting it up while it just like dies and falls out of the sky.
Jeez.
And so the X-Men, they got to go try and find him and hope that he's okay. So here we get these great silhouettes. They're running through the jungle. And then we get, who's this guy? This weird, shaggy looking dude watching him from the bushes. It can't be, but it is Cyclops. I'd know that voice anywhere. And if he's here, perhaps those people are X-Men.
Yes.
Ooh, somebody who knows something about the X-Men.
That almost feels like a Jim Lee drawing when he's looking out of the canopy there. The face.
Yeah, something about it, right? Like in the hair.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's like a proto Gambit or something.
Yeah, yeah.
And so the X-Men, they've caught up to Wolverine and Nightcrawler. Mein Gott! From the looks of things, this beast never had a chance. And Wolverine's just like, nope. And he's like, I think I'm going to like this place. And then, of course, Cyclops takes that moment to sort of give him the business and say, what if you missed? You'd be splattered all over the jungle.
Yeah, I love this bit.
Yeah. And Wolverine's like, yeah, but I didn't miss.
Yeah.
I did good.
Yeah. And this bit with Banshee is great.
Mm-hmm.
We're tired and hungry and hurt. This is no time to be yelling at the shrimp because you didn't like the way that he saved me. Storm and I spot a village. So he's like telling off Cyclops, and Cyclops is kind of looking at him like, oh.
Yeah, in this moment, it's like you just get that, like, Wolverine and Cyclops just love hating each other.
Yeah.
Like, Cyclops probably knows, he's like, I don't need to say anything, but I'm going to take this moment because I love to just try and give it to him. And then the Banshee steps in, just like, guys,
yeah,
knock it off. We got stuff to do, and I saw a village, so let's go find this village.
So this guy in the tree talks about how he knows they're mutants because he can sense their power, right?
Yeah. And that power is precisely what he needs.
So this this is just such a great drawing with you got him in the foreground here. On mine he's all blue actually, so it even pushes it further into the foreground.
Interesting.
And then you got these really cool just quick outlines of them. So simple, so effective.
Yeah,
and give that distance.
I really like how they're colored yellow in here.
Yeah, mine are orange
on the green. Instead of, they could have been just like black silhouettes, but making them yellow there, it's like, I don't know, it's really like they're in the sunshine and you can just see them.
Yep. And it's that atmospheric perspective again, where you're going to lose a lot of details,
Yeah. And so now that we know they're alive, we got to go back and check in with our other X-Men back in New York. And it tells us a week later, here comes like a little Quinjet. And here comes the Beast and Jean.
You see the little silhouette of Lilandra coming out of the place too. That's great.
Yeah, she ditched the egg helmet, which is nice.
Yeah. I always thought that was a helmet on her head, but I guess it's not. I guess it's her feathers.
Yeah. When it all sticks out like that and it's got the that's like her feathers or her feather remnants from their bird past.
Yeah, I thought they were just on the arms and that was like a hat, like a headdress, but
yeah.
Okay, cool.
And so they're here to see the professor, to break the news to him, and this is Beast's first time meeting her. And Jean goes alone to talk to the professor here. And this little sequence is so fantastic.
Yes, it is.
She's thinking about, her when she arrived for the first time at the school and her life with the X-Men and this great, and it kind of slows the moment down, all this thought that she's having, slowly going up the stairs, slowly opening the door to the study, and you see the professor at a distance. Now she comes up to him, and then the moment where she tells him that they're dead, it's just silent.
Yeah, she starts out by saying professor and then using his real name so he knows that it's serious.
Yeah.
It's like when your mom uses your first, middle, and last name to when you're in trouble, This is serious.
Yeah. And we get this great shot here, the grid of the window panes.
Yeah. It creates this great atmosphere.
Yeah. The bookshelf just kind of faded out.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. But at that same moment where everybody back home is sad, here's the X-Men just kicking back in the village that they found, kind of having a nice little vacation.
You got you got Banshee and a reappearance of the pipe.
Yeah, that he, I guess, got or made a pipe maybe while he's in the village.
Corncob pipe or something, you know?
Yeah, and we get all these sort of natives here, all of them rocking these sweet mohawks too.
Yeah.
Nightcrawler's talking to these kids, telling him, you know, about his tale, his Einschweif in his German, I guess, is his tale. And so, yeah, so then we get here's Scott and Banshee sort of talking to, you know, one of these main dudes here in this village.
It's not often that you will see a arrow indicating to the reader which panel you need to go to. That was something that was pretty common back in like the golden age.
Yeah.
But I don't know if that was added after, when the editors kind of looked at it and went, oh, maybe a little bit confusing where you're supposed to go here, or if it was added on purpose there. It's an interesting choice, though.
Yeah, because I think you definitely need the arrow.
You do.
You know, your natural reading, you might just flow because you've got this large figure of Storm looking all hot over here. So like, that's going to draw your eye.
Yeah, you needed to have that. You needed to have a big image at the end, you know, and the only way to get the rest of what he was telling there, especially with all the text of, see, I don't think that he would have made the first panel as big, except for Claremont's Claremont. There's a lot of dialogue. So you need to have something that size to get all of that information in, you know? And then you need these beats, but in order to have that big moment of Storm coming out in these clothes, it would either have to be a long panel on the bottom, or you would have to do something like that. And then I guess probably they said, well, you know, it's a little confusing. We need to put an arrow. And I wonder if that was added after. I wonder if we can find the original art and see if it's got yellowed glue or anything on it.
Oh yeah, that would be really interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, if it's a paste up kind of armor. Yeah. This is also a great page because we get a lot of, it's like Banshee's thoughts.
It is.
You know, and if you you know, come at the X-Men in later years or decades, you know, you don't get much Banshee.
No.
So, you know, going back as we are, like, we get lots of good Banshee action, and like he's super cool as a character. And so I just love anytime we get, you know, where he's thinking, he's like, all me life I've danced with death, pushed me luck as far as it'll go and more, just for the hell of it. It's like, dang,
man,
that's cool. That's like Steve McQueen cool.
Yeah,
like,
it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, Banshee in Bullet.
I'd watch that. And so here, and he's like, you know, he's also trying to figure Scott out, because, you know, Scott, he should be just like a blubbering mess, like,
right,
because the X-Men think that Jean and the Beast are dead.
Yeah,
they don't know that they got out. So, you know, the Banshee's like, you know, it's the woman he loves is dead, but he seems to be taking it okay.
Yeah, totally.
But he's like, okay, it's we're on a nice vacation, and Scott's like, you know, our job today is just rest and relaxation. And so he goes over to find Storm, and then, you know, he's gobsmacked because then Storm has new robes, I guess.
Right.
From the chief's wife. And she likes it here because she thinks it reminds her of her home in Africa.
Man, can you go back and look at that page again real quick?
The ads?
I want to talk about art and storytelling real quick.
Oh, yeah.
There's this sort of tangent thing that's happening that is throwing me off. And it is that first page where, or first panel where he's coming out of that that hut, and then you've got those vertical like bamboo poles go right down into the gutter of the pages below.
Mm-hmm.
It weirdly makes it feel like the first panel is broken into two different panels.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that was done on purpose or not, because I would assume Byrne pays attention to things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Most artists do pay attention to things like that, and you only use them. You only break that rule if you're trying to do something. So it kind of is doing something to my brain here. Anyway,
how would you do that, Chris? Would you have moved it the edge of the hut one way?
Yeah.
Split this one? Just
I for sure would have at least done that, or change the angle, at least.
Yeah.
Maybe put a little bit of a Dutch angle on something.
Mm-hmm.
But it could have, but like I said, it could be on purpose to try to separate out the two things that are happening up there while he's having those thoughts. Not sure.
Yeah, that's it. That's interesting.
Mm.
Yeah, and like once you notice it, like you can't like unnotice it.
Yeah. Yeah, it just lines up so perfectly.
Uh-huh. This is interesting, this ad here where like at this point, like Marvel, like they're advertising their subscription service, and like the three characters that they use for that, that you got Iron Man, Conan,
yes,
and then this turd.
Yeah, who is that?
I mean, it's not Nightwing. It's
not the Black Knight, right?
No, it's he's kind of like a bird themed guy, right? From the Defenders, maybe. Is
Weird.
Defenders on this list? Yeah, it is on the list.
Is Conan a magazine at this point?
Conan it's definitely the Savage Sword magazine.
Yeah, because there's a point where it becomes regular standard comics and they can't get as like salacious with it. That was the point of having it at a magazine, because they didn't have to.
The Savage Sword come after the Marvel series.
I don't think so. I don't think so. I think it was Savage Sword first, because I feel like it was Savage Sword. God, now I don't know. I have both.
Yeah. Well, they're advertising. What they're advertising in the subscription is just the regular.
Okay.
Yeah,
and I feel like Savage Sword was like early 70s. Because it was sort of like when Warren stuff was happening too.
Yeah. And
they figured out that they could skip the comics code by changing the aspect ratio of the book, or just the size of the book, and putting it on magazine stands. They could have nudity and things like that.
The stuff they would do for a long time trying to get around the code, it just took forever for them to just realize, just ignore the code. Just don't even put it on the book. Who cares?
Yeah.
It's like,
I mean, that wasn't even until like the 90s, right? That they just got rid of the code altogether.
Yeah. And I guess once you had specialty shops and you weren't going to the newsstand, you could have done away with the code right then, because like a shop isn't going to care, I bet.
Yeah. I guess you still had parents up until the 70s that were, looking for that code after the 50s. So, Yeah.
Did your parents buy you comics?
Yeah.
Did they pick you up comics?
Yeah, my dad would. For sure. He didn't care about any kind of code.
I was going to say, like, ask them if they remember looking for the code for,
No. My dad was born in 28, so he was like reading all of that stuff, you know.
Yeah, he was getting all that good OG pulps, super violent.
You know, he was like just gonna go into the Korean War, so that was like the 50s. So, you know, he probably would have stopped reading comics, you know, just before the code actually came to even into existence. So he probably missed that whole thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, interesting.
Crazy stuff. And so here we go. Now the X-Men, like, okay, Banshee, he's got errands to run for Scott. I don't know what that is. You know, maybe picking berries or something.
Yeah.
Gathering food. And so Aurora's like, okay, well, I'm going to go for a swim.
Yes.
And, you know, she's thinking about the sort of the beauty of the savage land, how it reminds her of Kenya. And then she's also thinking about Jean, who she thinks is dead, and says like that's her dearest friend amongst the other X-Men is Jean.
Yeah. Yeah, and she's really like torn. Well, you'd think that they would lean into it and that everybody would be a little bit more torn up even than they are, but
yeah. And you know, and she's thinking like Jean needed me and I failed her.
Yeah. So in dialogue anyway, they're very torn up.
Yeah, and like her thought of I failed leads right into Scott, who's also thinking I failed.
Right. Yep.
And Jean and Hank died because of it. While he's out here like, you know, just shaving with this knife.
Yeah. Yeah. It's great. And he's talking about how he's not as torn up as he feels like he should be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, and so they don't bring it up here, but like my assumption is because deep down he can still feel maybe a tiny bit of the rapport between him and Jean. So maybe buried deep part of his body knows she's still alive. Maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, this whole thing is still kind of weird because maybe.
Yeah.
And but again, it goes back to the whole like savage, maybe there is some sort of connection that they have that's deeper.
Yeah. Or maybe it is that they have grown apart after she was resurrected as the Phoenix.
Right.
Yeah. And this is great. He's like looking in the water because he's thinking like, all right, I didn't like the beard, maybe a mustache.
Yeah.
And he sees his reflection and he thinks he's like, whoa, I look like Corsair.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is great. And if we remember at this point, Scott doesn't know that Corsair is his father.
Right. Only Jean does, I think, right?
Jean and Storm knows.
Jean and Storm know, right.
Yeah. And so, but this kind of throws his mind back to the Starjammers, and he starts putting a few pieces together. Like,
yeah, and they talk about
spoke English with a Nebraska twang.
Yeah,
I don't know what a Nebraska twang is.
I don't either.
You know, I live in Iowa. I don't think Iowans have a specific twang, and I don't think Nebraskans. I've been to Omaha plenty of times. I don't hear any.
There is like a. There's like a middle American accent that is taught to like news reporters in order to train them to lose any accent that they might have. And I know it's like Joplin, Missouri area, like mid and like probably into Nebraska, where people like just don't really have an accent other than American, you know?
Yeah. See, I feel like, you know, Ohio is the same way, you know.
Well, I think it depends, because if you go down into southern Ohio, you're getting closer to Kentucky, and then
yeah, you know, we don't talk about those parts of Ohio, but you know, in the good areas of Ohio, you know, we just sound just like, you know, Minnesotans and
yeah, you know, where I'm from, we don't have an accent at all.
Yeah, maybe not Minnesota. Yeah, forget that.
I've lost mine when I moved to Los Angeles real fast, and now I think I have a little bit of this like West Coast accent thing going on, but I don't know. Yeah. Anyway, I don't know what a Nebraska twang is.
Yeah, I don't know either, but I guess you got to get like really out into Nebraska. Maybe they're twanging.
Maybe southern Nebraska or something. Who knows?
And and so Scott, he's thinking about his like Corsair's American, accent and stuff, and then he remembers being in the McCran crystal and having all those nightmares, and he was dreaming or thought he was dreaming, and Corsair was calling him Scott.
Yeah.
Which happened.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, well, but he'd never seen me. How did he know my real name?
Yeah.
And then he flashes back to sort of what he remembers about sort of his parents shoving him out of the airplane with his brother Alex. And so he feels like he's just about to make a connection here that like that's his dad.
Yep. The dominoes are falling, he says.
Yep. And Storm walks up and interrupts him, and he's like, "Oh, the memories," and it's like, "Oh, they're gone."
Yep. Look at that chest, chest of hair.
Yeah. Burns all about like all these guys are very like manly, hairy chested.
Yeah, he's like Tom Selleck right now.
Yeah, man, Magnum PI era Selleck. That was great Cyclops.
Totally.
And so Storm kind of sought him out because like she's missing Jean, and here's where he's like, well, I wish I had grief to share. And he mourned for Hank, but for Jean, there's nothing. And here's where he mentions after the shuttle flight, everything seemed to change, and she wasn't the same girl.
Yeah.
But Aurora, as always, has like wisdom above the rest of the team. And she's like, well, perhaps it was simply that she was no longer a girl as you are no longer a boy.
Whoa. Yeah, that's a really great moment. It is also, just that little word balloon really drives home the point of separating the classic Kirby Lee X-Men from the Claremont X-Men, where this isn't, it's still the school for gifted youngsters, but these are not youngsters anymore. These are adults with, real problems and real emotions.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Like we said it before. It's like, there's no school. They're not students anymore. There's no school going on. These are young adults, superheroes.
Yeah.
Doing stuff. And this is a great moment where it like gets to the sort of that emotional, like growing up. You're not teens anymore. You're not kids. You're adults. And maybe that's what's, bugging you.
Yeah. And I love the line weight of her hair as she's walking away there.
Mm-hmm.
That's a nib that he starts out with, and then applies pressure at the apex of the curve, which was what I was told that by somebody very early on, that's sort of like what you pay attention to is like making the apex of the curve thicker.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And it's true a lot of the time, but then like talking with Dan Panosian, there's also something to like making the bottom of an illustration heavier in it to show weight of the line weight down there. It's interesting. There's a lot of thought involved in being an inker. Like I always say, people call them tracers, but they're not tracers at all. They definitely add this extra intangible thing to the drawing.
When you said tracer, I was just thinking of that opening scene in Chasing Amy.
Yeah.
You're getting argued about being a tracer.
Yeah.
So yeah, and Claremont has this great, little speech by Storm here that kind of sort of wraps up this whole thought about like you're not kids anymore. And she says to Cyclops, if you wanted only to preserve the gene that was like a fly in amber, perhaps what you felt for her wasn't love at all. It's like, ooh, that is deep.
Yeah. And if you want her back the way that she was, you have to go to Jurassic Park and they will re-engineer her.
Yes. As many as you want. And afterwards, Storm is thinking, I was a little harsh, but I had to be.
Mm-hmm. Here we go.
And now we get in the background. Here's, Wolverine chilling on a rock, and here comes Colossus with two lady friends.
Yeah.
He's like, Tovarsh, these ladies wish to show me their special island. Would you like to join us? And right away, Wolverine is like, is this the PD Pureheart I've known and loved? Yeah. It's like, much obliged, pal, but I think I'll pass.
Man.
He's just going to sit here and sew his costume.
That's so funny.
Yeah.
Wolverine, it's so out of character, I feel like. I feel like he shouldn't be passing on this. I feel like Wolverine wouldn't pass on this.
Yeah. You see, and right here, it's interesting. Like, he's kind of mentioning that he likes Colossus.
Yeah,
And a lot of their interaction almost up until this point, they've kind of been at each other's heads. They've kind of been like enemies.
Yeah.
And it's kind of changed now. And Colossus is like, "Are you sure?" And see, Wolverine, he knows what's going on. He's like, "Yeah, I'm sure, and I wouldn't want to crimp your style."
Colossus is so naive. He's like a little boy.
Yeah, he's like, okay. Yeah, he's just like,
in Russia.
Right. Yeah. as he's like, going off with this like topless native woman.
Yeah. Again, I'm pointing it out for the third time this issue. Look at that hair.
Yeah.
That's a lot of ink.
Those Canadians, man.
Yeah.
Tell you. And he's like, the kid means well, and those were fine looking frails, but I got no use for company right now.
Yeah.
Because he is also mourning the loss of Jean.
Yeah, this is like that X-Men cartoon meme.
Looking at the picture.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, here he reminds us, like, he cared for her, but never even told her his real name. Mm-hmm. Because he hasn't told any of the X-Men what his real name is.
Yeah.
Yet. And he's like, it's like someone cut out his heart.
Yep.
And so now we cut back to here's Storm coming up to this lake.
She's really changing as a character when she is like doing okay after being claustrophobic and wearing clothes while going for a dip.
Yes.
She's assimilating.
And we get this little figure standing behind her saying the life force within her is incredible.
Yeah.
No, I mustn't, but I hunger. Ooh, so if you remember our guy eyeballing him from the bushes earlier.
Mm-hmm.
But Storm doesn't seem, so she's going to take a dip. I kind of like her thoughts here because it's kind of gets us back into that thought of like her connection with nature.
Yes.
And stuff, thinking how great it is not to be in the city and smelling sewers and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But then here come these hands and this shadow.
This is the weirdest panel to me.
I love this kind of crazy down shot, but it's a little wonky.
It's super wonky. If she's just laying on her back, she needs like the ground arches underneath her, so you would arch the character, and because of that, she almost looks pregnant. Mm-hmm. And then other thing that gets me is like I like the idea of this shadow of this guy coming from the side, but it is like ink so heavy on the sides, it looks like it was mowed into the grass. More than a shadow.
They definitely tried something different to signal like a shadow on the ground.
And I'm all for trying stuff and failing. It happens. I'm just pointing it out. Like that panel failed on like a couple levels to me, but you know, I couldn't. I'm also gonna say I wouldn't have done it better.
Yeah,
maybe I would have, but
you know, it's also interesting because like compared to Cockrum, Byrne doesn't do. He doesn't like go out on a limb doing different angles and as much stuff,
not as much.
different kind of shots and stuff.
Yeah.
So like he does like one that's like really different for him. I know it just like really stands out as just like, whoa, that's different.
Yeah, and he's also like, you know, what? I don't know how old he is when he's drawing this, 20 something, maybe 30, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, he's got to be, because he started pretty early, right? He came out of like doing fanzine art.
Yeah.
And then that from doing fanzine art, he got on at like Marvel or
Wow.
he did a couple like indie books or something, maybe.
What a journey going from fanzine to fanzine.
Yeah. Right. It's like
he's just doing those X-Men books now. I don't know if he's still doing them, but
yeah, he's still doing them.
Stuff, and no one is. It's never going to be released because it's not official. But anyway, no, I think that he is sort of like still. You can feel it. You can, like in those pages where I say this doesn't feel like Byrne, even in the run where like this page feels very much like Byrne faces and Byrne drawings, and then you'll have a page where it very much doesn't. So he's still finding it. He's still finding himself in these, and I think it's fascinating because he's very successful in most of it. Very, very successful. And then when he like, there's like an almost epic fail like this panel. I love it too because it is weird and it does show his journey, and I'm here for it.
Yeah, me too. And here we get these hands grabbing Storm's face from behind.
Mm-hmm.
And this like energy kind of coming around here, and the voice saying, "I'm sorry, child. I do not mean to cause you pain, but I need life energy.
Yeah.
Only a little." And then here we get this like powered out negative look here. Mm-hmm. He's like, "No, so much power. I never dreamed. Smashing into me like a tidal wave. I can't stop. Dear Lord, preserve me. I'm changing."
This panel is so cool because, okay, we know that he's changing. You're starting to get the shape of what is going to be revealed on the next page, but you don't have the standard sort of blast lines. There's this cross hatching that happens around the negative space. And instead of being these like blast lines with like a nib, like a small thing, it's their brush. And so again, it's almost like Austin is experimenting too. It's really, really kind of cool. So this is like their page to like, to hell with it. Let's try something different and see if it works.
Yeah, those marks really have that feeling of like a vibration.
Yeah.
Like out of focus, like it's just like
mine are colored like the negative silhouette on mine is white, and on yours it's yellow, and then on mine the outside is yellow and yours is red, so it's much easier to see the line work on mine. I'll have to go back to it when we're done here.
Yeah. And so what happens? Bum, bum, bum. We see this energy flare, lightning from the ground up, and that signals to the other X-Men that it's Storm, and she's in trouble, and everybody sees it. Of course, great Cyclops yelling face, always good.
Yep.
Banshee, just like, what? Nightcrawler, mein Gott! And so they take off running, and, you know, everyone's like, you know, who's going? This guy, and like Cyclops is like, everybody freeze. And Nightcrawler's like, what? What is it? It is someone who should be dead.
Yeah.
And here we get our dude. Dead mutant, I am evil incarnate. I cannot die. Behold the rebirth of Sauron.
Yeah.
And as I claimed her life, so shall I claim yours.
Such a great page.
Great.
Sauron is so fun.
Oh, he's awesome. Just awesome. I love anytime he shows up.
Yeah. So he first showed up in like the Neil Adams stuff.
Yeah. Yep.
Those are wild dynamic pages. Those pages, looking back at them, they feel like leaps and bounds ahead of even this stuff, you know?
Yeah, they're crazy layouts. Neil Adams does like wild stuff with like Sauron's sort of hypnotic eyes.
Yeah.
And he does all these like big weird shaped panels to get like his wings in and everything like that. Yeah, those are terrific issues.
So readers up to this point know what Sauron does. What are his powers exactly?
So he absorbed all this energy from Storm. So he's kind of like an energy vampire.
Literal energy vampire.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then he's got like these hypnotic eyes where he can just like, just take control of you, or at least like stun you so that you can't fight back against him. And then, he's just a big, awesome, flying reptile.
So cool.
Yeah. So awesome. And of course, he is named after the big bad from Lord of the Rings. And they just kind of, I think they had to change the spelling a little bit to.
Yeah. Took it from dinosaur, right? And then also a nod to Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
Oh man, what an issue.
Yeah. Just such a cool image here.
Yeah. Great figure drawing too.
Yeah.
He made up for that lounging over the water thing.
Yeah.
I like the gun on the side of his hip too.
Yeah.
Weird.
So like the guy, he changed but he had a gun with him, and so now he's still got a gun.
Yeah, he didn't lose the belt.
Yeah. Because if he wasn't scary enough,
right,
he can still also just shoot you.
Yeah. Let's set up the classic X-Men issue here.
And here it tells us the next issue, Visions of Death.
Damn.
Whoa.
So let's take a look at this. Here's the classic X-Men.
That might be my favorite Art Adams cover that he does in classic X-Men.
Yeah? Okay. I don't know if I have a favorite yet.
Because
I'll have to get to that, because at some point here, these are going to run out.
Yeah.
So I'll be able to look back on them.
It's just work. Like the X-Men all look cool.
Yeah.
The jungle looks great.
It's weird how they colored his
looks amazing.
His beak orange in this one.
Yeah.
Look at this. That's interesting. Because that is him, isn't it?
No, that's Banshee.
Oh, that's Banshee. Oh,
he just doesn't have his costume.
Gotcha. I didn't recognize him without the Lucky Charms haircut.
Yeah.
And then the inside has got this cool image, colored way too dark, I think, but of Banshee. So again, this is okay. So this is where it says, Claremont and Byrne. Actually, you know what? I take that back from when I was talking about where they kind of delineate between which ones were Byrne in a single actual issue, because when it does say just Claremont here, it's because it's the added pages for the thing. So I was wrong.
That makes sense. Yeah.
And then for the backup this time, actually, Joe Duffy's handling the plot and the scripts on it.
That's interesting.
So let's take a look at Kieran Dwyer's. He has 6 and 7, 12 and 17. So let's go to 6 and 7. Oh, so this is kind of weird. So they're out, right? At this point in the issue, they've made it out of the cave.
Yeah.
But then the added panels say not so fast.
Oh, they're going to flash back and show us them show them getting out, huh?
They're actually still in the same spot, but they're making it seem like they're not completely out of it yet.
Is it a
and they're
flashback?
also, it's not a flashback because you can see like the jungle here and stuff.
Yeah.
And they're talking about how if they don't kind of do something, the mechanical stuff is going to really blow the whole place because they're not out of the woods yet. Like the mechanical stuff is going to blow the magma out. So they devised this plan where, you know, Cyclops is going to kind of blast more things away, and Storm is going to freeze the magma here. And then Banshee is going to help Cyclops break away the stuff that he is blasting. But during his scream, he blows Wolverine's eardrums out just in this one panel. And they're talking about their hope that his healing power can repair the damage. And then we just get going, and then there's no mention again of Wolverine losing his hearing, which is kind of weird.
Huh.
So this is totally unnecessary, in my opinion. And then let's see where we go from there. We went to 12 and 17. So as we go along, you remember these panels. 12. So we go to an Antarctica research base where Hank and Jean end up, and these scientists talking about, oh my God, I can't believe that this is an Avenger, but look who he's talking to. And Captain America is like, you know, look at all the trouble you've caused. And he says, believe me, Cap, I know. I'm sorry. I'm prepared to take whatever punishment you feel I deserve. But this was sort of a family emergency, and it took precedence over everything. And Captain's like, I understand. I hope everything worked out all right. Like that was it.
It's like, yeah, no big deal.
And then he just kind of talks, they kind of just go through their shared history, and, you know, like, you're different, you know, she can, you know, it sort of sets up how he's like, in his mind, he's like, the more I see of Jean as Phoenix, blah, 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 you know, and she says, the more unnerved you are, Hank. And so that was in his thoughts. And so we get that she can, you know, read their thoughts all the time. And that's kind of freaky. And I think at this point, the Dark Phoenix saga has probably already happened, you know, as you're reading classic X-Men. So it really does make it unnerving, and makes me think, a person who hasn't read the Dark Phoenix stuff yet, go, God, what a terrifying foe if it is part Jean, knows everything about you and can read your thoughts and prepare for anything that you could possibly do. It's like, that's pretty terrifying, you know? And then what was the other page? Oh my gosh, I'm sorry, folks, that I'm flipping back and forth. I can't hold more than one thought in my head at a time. 17, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. Oh yeah, 17. So this is just more of Scott just being like, woe is me, about like why he isn't mourning more than he should be. And he kind of does break down, you know, a little bit here. Why doesn't it hurt? You know, he's more sad about his lack of emotions, and having emotions about his lack of emotions. It's kind of weird. But interesting too.
He's got issues.
Yeah. And then this backup, you know, not by Claremont, but worth kind of just throwing out there anyway, is you get this mother of the bride thing, and you're kind of like, what is this? So she's marrying this guy. Who is this guy? And
is that Storm?
That Storm is marrying some guy with a mustache here. You don't know who it is. And as the ceremony kind of goes along, you get this really awesome EC horror-esque thing where he says, you know, time to kiss the bride. And he's like this, you know, Crypt Keeper kind of character. And he keeps coming at him, just saying, "Kiss the bride," you know. And she's like, "What the hell's going on?" And here's the X-Men coming at her as zombies. She's like, "No, no, 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 what's going on?" And so she uses some sort of power here, and you know, gets whisked away. And now she's like in this back in the shack, I think, where she was locked up as a kid. Maybe not. I don't know. Maybe I'm making that up. Anyway, this other guy comes in, you know, and he's trying to get her. You get these zombies just kind of coming at her. And all of a sudden, you know, here's her cat eyes again, those oblong pupils. And then all of a sudden she wakes up at this resort and she's talking to this, you know, older woman here who says that her husband used to work on this island at this plant that made all these metals, you know, chemical plant that made all these metals. And he died, and the company gave her insurance money, but, you know, thought that wasn't enough. So they wanted to send her on a vacation here at this place at 12 Trees. Right. And then she all of a sudden is talking to the owner of the place, this 12 Trees guy. 12 Trees is his last name. I'm guessing this has something to do with Sauron. Just as I don't know. So he's like, no, everything's safe. And as soon as, you know, the FDA or whatever approves it in America, it's, you know, it's in Europe and South America. And as soon as they approve our lightweight metals in America, we're going to be good to go. And then all of a sudden this guy comes in and he's like, freaks out at him. He's like, no, I told you not to bring the samples here. They're dangerous. Never, I must never be exposed to And then he's like, oh, I'm busted. Realizes that this is the husband of the woman who was outside, and that being exposed to these metals is turning them into like mindless zombies. He attacks her and she just kind of like runs into the woods, you know, and she like basically, as this nightmare scenario is going on, she is able to get a hold of her powers again and sort of blast them out. And that's the end of the story. So I'm guessing that this is sort of what's happening in her mind as Sauron has her under the spell, maybe. And she is like somehow psychically connecting with him or something. I don't know because I haven't read it. So.
Yeah, we'll see how and if this story comes back at us. Crazy, just like Friday the 13th horror kind of thing, just out of nowhere.
Yeah, I like it. Cool Bolton drawings.
Yeah, man, he draws a mean zombie X-Men.
Yeah. He's really growing on me, you know. Like he's not flashy, but he's effective. You know, these are great. I love that. It's a blast from the past. It's like from another era, and I just love it. So there we go. That, our friends, is issue number. Oh, what do you got there?
So here's one of the Neil Adams Sauron issues.
Oh yeah, okay. Let's take a look at that. Oh, so he does have the orange.
So this is. He shows up in issue 60 is his first appearance, and then 61 is, you know, the next issue here. And so right off the bat, you know, yeah, look at that, awesome, coming right at you, and he's doing his hypnotic eyes to the angel, and so here's like, so then the angel starts seeing all these weird sort of monsters and demons. Because of Sauron's sort of hypnosis that he throws at him.
Gosh.
And it's just crazy stuff.
It's wild to put this in context, because what year was this?
Ooh, this is 1969. October of 69.
69. So when you hear of like,
so it's almost 10 years before
Yeah.
Issue 114.
Issue 114, right. It's wild because when you look at from when I was coming up reading comics, I would see Neil Adams stuff and I'd be like, yeah, that stuff's pretty good. It's not like amazing, it's pretty great, but it's not like, the greatest stuff I've ever seen. The greatest stuff I've ever seen is Jim Lee and Mark Silvestri and, all the the stuff that I was growing up on, right?
Mm-hmm.
But to put it into the context of 1969, a lot of the stuff was pretty bland at that time. And here comes this guy who is doing these wild layouts and this like intricate figure drawing and adding a dynamicism that wasn't really seen before,
No,
and
the rest of Marvel is still all Kirby.
Yeah,
because he's about to jump ship and leave.
Yeah.
So like everyone is still like trying to be Kirby, and DC is just being boring. And then you got this.
Yeah. It's the context that was missing for me, I think, for a long time.
Mm-hmm. And look at how fantastic. Like he does not do a straight grid when he does panels. He's just everything is weird shapes.
Yeah.
And these super elongated figures.
I thought that these sort of panel borders, good and crazy, was something that came much later. And then I was looking at some comics from like the 40s yesterday.
Oh, yeah.
And there, maybe even the 30s. And there are some wild panel layouts to the point where you can't even follow them. So it's been around since the beginning of comics.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my God. Look at that.
Look at that.
Yeah. And Sauron's face in that one right next to it.
Uh-huh.
Wow.
Because he changes again. And, X-Men are going to stop him, and he flies off. And they're like, oh, we don't know where he's going. But this Tanya here, that's sort of the girl he's in love with. The human guy. But he flies way south, all the way down till he's basically in Antarctica. He's down in Tierra del Fuego.
Okay.
And he's just in this little cabin trying to basically stay away from like people so he can never change back to Sauron.
Got it.
He's like, it's like a Dr. Jekyll and Hyde kind of thing, right?
Sure,
like
sure.
Jekyll doesn't like the Hyde persona kind of thing.
Yeah.
But his girl finds him.
Meets Frankenstein, right?
Yeah.
Because Frankenstein, the monster, fled to the North Pole to be away, right?
Yeah. And so he's like trying to run away, and he like falls off this cliff. And the X-Men, they came with her, and they're just like, whoa, and Iceman's up here just kind of looking over the edge. So it's like, he's dead.
Yeah.
So this is why Cyclops, when he shows up at the end of the issue we just looked at, he's like, oh, he should be dead.
Mm-hmm.
Because, Cyclops was there when he tumbled over the edge.
I see. So, okay.
Issue 61.
Context.
Until we get to 114.
Wow. That is
10 years, great. Almost 10 years later.
Wild time long time to wait for the payoff.
Yeah, you better have a good memory if you were a long-time reader to know. Great work.
Awesome. Well, that is issue 114 of the Uncanny X-Men.
Yes, sir.
And we'll be back next week with 115. So find your copies however you can get them. And all of our information will be in the show notes. There will be a speed drawing of the thumbnail at the right after this, and stay tuned to find out how you can get comics from John and I And until next time, stay excellent, everybody.
That's right.
Check out dinobeast.com for all things John Coates like Dino Beast, Ninja 4, M.L.F, Berserker, and more. ChrisAndersonComics.com is where it's at for books like Chaotic Neutral, Spectral, A Showcase of Fear, Lost Angels, and more, plus apparel and original art. Also a link to Patreon where you can read Three-Headed Pigman now. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon. We'll see you next time on the Chris Claremont X-Men Comic Club.